What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with my Week 9 NCAA football power rankings. After a huge week of football, we get another huge week of lots of ranked matchups this week. And before we get into it, dropping from the rankings are my Michigan Wolverines. This team looks atrocious. They don't have a quarterback and they can't do anything on offense. So I really don't expect Michigan to jump back into the rankings by the end of the year. In the others receiving votes, you have UNLV, Washington State, Memphis, and Syracuse joining Michigan. I think the best team to get in probably is going to be Syracuse or UNLV this week. Both of them face some ranked teams here that you're going to see. And if they pull off that win, they're probably going to be switching spots, maybe even dropping someone else out of the rankings, just because that's going to be a big win for these schools if they can get it. 25 through 21, you got Vanderbilt jumping in. I had to wait 1 week. I was going to put them in regardless. But I just had to wait because I knew someone from Illinois and Michigan, someone would fall out and lose that game. So I just waited to put Vandy in because they're more than deserving right now. Navy moves up one. They play some Notre Dame this week, so they finally get their first true tough opponent, but it is a home game for them. So Navy has a chance to do something big here. And if they get a win like that, they're definitely moving up. Illinois, they can put the whole college football on notice if they can go into Eugene and pull off an upset there. I don't want to say ugly win at home against Michigan, but it kind of was. It was just a boring game. SMU took care of Stanford on the road, and they get a tough Duke team on the road. I think that's going to be a big game this week for both those teams in the ACC. Missouri scrapes by Auburn, probably should have lost that game, and somehow, some way, Missouri keeps finding ways to win, and they go against Bama, who needs a win to stay alive in SEC play. But this Missouri team, they find ways to win games, and that's all you can ask for at this point in the season. 20 through 16. Pitt, they stay the same after their bye week. They get Syracuse at home. And like I mentioned earlier, huge game for both these programs. Syracuse one loss, Pitt undefeated in conference play as well. So if Syracuse gets that win, maybe Pitt and Syracuse switch spots here. Army, they get a win against East Carolina. They stay undefeated in conference play 6-0 and 7-0 for this year. And they go into a bye week, I think, thrilled to be where they're at. K-State destroys West Virginia on the road, and I picked West Virginia in our picks last week, but this K-State team just keeps proving me wrong. They keep winning games, but now it's a rivalry game against Kansas. Can they keep doing what they're doing? This team is flying under the radar, this Kansas State team. Keep winning games, and sooner or later, we might find this team in the playoff. Same goes for Boise State. If they can go into UNLV, get a win there, as long as Genty can rush for 203 touchdowns. This Boise State team is going to be tough to stop. Texas A&M, kind of same thing. They went into Mississippi State, won by 10, but it was kind of an underwhelming win for them, so I'm dropping them back one. And they get LSU at home in a huge game for SEC play as both teams are undefeated in conference. 15 through 11. And this is where you find three SEC teams. Tennessee moves up one spot because it wasn't a very good win. I get they beat Alabama, top 10 team, right? I'm a Tennessee fan. I get it. But I don't think they're a top 10 team right now because this team can't figure out how to score in the first half. They haven't scored a single point in the first half in the last three games, but they found ways to win games. And going into this bye this week, they get Kentucky out of the bye week. They have to really assess how they can score early. And if they can do that, get back to their winning ways like they were at the beginning of the year, then Tennessee's going to be a top 10 team. But you have teams like Clemson, Notre Dame, keep finding ways to win games and taking care of business. Obviously, Alabama falls out of the top 10 with their loss to Tennessee, but they could jump right back in with a win at home against Missouri. And then Ole Miss comes out of the bye week, falling one spot, but they get Oklahoma, and Oklahoma team just keeps going down and down in rankings and everybody's power rankings. And I expect Ole Miss to beat them as well and stay and get to 6-2. Now, 10 through 6, I think this is where you can rank a lot of different teams. I'm putting Iowa State and Indiana into my top 10. I know in others people's rankings and even the AP and coaches poll, they don't have them that high, at least Indiana. And I think Indiana deserves to be here. What they did against Nebraska, 56-7. I get the spread was 6.5, and yeah, they should have won by a touchdown according to Vegas, but winning by 49 at home in the first year of a new head coach, whole new system. Indiana's rocking right now, and they deserve to be in the top 10. They're beating some good teams. They get Washington at home, which is a tougher team in the Big Ten this year. But I expect Indiana, they could be 10-0 heading into Columbus in late November. Iowa State find ways to win game. It was a nail biter. They kind of got lucky with the interception or the fumble. I can't remember what it was, but he dropped the ball at the 1 yard line, didn't score, and you lose. That's kind of how you lose. But Iowa State finding ways to win games. BYU, same goes for them, winning on Friday night. Now they go into UCF, which I think could be a tough matchup for them on the road across the country. And I'm sure that UCF place is going to be rocking because they know that they can pull off a huge upset. Texas falls out of my top spot and out of my top five to seven. They just didn't show up in this one. A home game, you thought they would, but I picked Georgia in the last week, and I just think this Georgia team is built different so far since that loss. And they get Vanderbilt on the road. That's going to be a tough place to play because Vanderbilt's going to be rocking, I would assume, now that they are good. And I would hope that it's going to be a 50-50 split, better than it normally is. But Texas, don't be too surprised if they come out guns a-blazing and kind of put it on Vanderbilt. LSU, same goes for them. Beat Arkansas on the road, which Tennessee couldn't do. And you look at this LSU team, a lot of talk about all the other SEC teams, but LSU, man, they probably could end up in the SEC championship and win the whole thing. I know it might be a hot take because you have Texas, Georgia, even Tennessee, still Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU. It's not really in that conversation a lot, but they should be. And I think they're going to prove it this week and go on the road and beat Texas A&M and prove that they are going to be a very tough team at the late stages of the year. 5 through 1, you have three undefeated teams at 1, 2, and 5. Oregon moves up because they blew up Purdue, didn't even allow a point. And obviously, they deserve that top spot after Texas loss. They get Illinois at home. Should be a good game there. Penn State moves up out of the bye week to 2, undefeated, 6-0, 3-0 conference play. But now they go to Madison. That's a tough environment to play. But Penn State, if they can keep it rolling and keep playing how they are, maybe James Franklin's turned the page here because they're not playing Michigan and Ohio State and could really right the ship. Georgia, they're moving to 3. I can't put Georgia at 1 like a lot of people want to, or even at 2 because I still think Penn State's they may be ranked a little high, but they just keep winning and finding ways to win. And Georgia, Carson Beck and crew, I just think this Georgia team, we could find them playing Oregon in the national championship at the end of the year. They go into a bye, I think, pretty happy with where they are, especially after going and beating Texas on the road. 6-1, I think, is very realistic from coming into the year. And then Ohio State, 5-1. Let's see how they respond after the loss to Oregon. Obviously, had a bye last week, but they get Nebraska, who just got blown out to Indiana. So I expect Ohio State to kind of do the same thing, maybe not as big, but should be a big win there. And then Miami, survive and advance has been the story of these Hurricanes this year. 7-0. They get Florida State at home, which is going to be, I think, a bigger game for Miami than it is going to be Florida State because they can leave it all out there. Florida State has absolutely nothing to lose right now in a rivalry game. Where Miami, they're on thin ice, just barely winning, it seems like every single week for the last few weeks. And I don't want to say don't be surprised if Florida State pulls off an upset, but don't be surprised if it's a close game late in the fourth quarter there for Miami. But they find ways to win, like I said. And as long as Cam Ward is healthy, this Miami team is probably going to be in the playoff. That's going to be it for my Week 9 power rankings. Check back next week to see where the teams rank after a huge week of college football. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.